we're at the third segment for our guest. And so shall I bring her in and let you introduce her, Nadine?
Yes, I am thrilled that we are bringing to the stage Dr. Noliwe Rooks. It is wonderful to see you. First of all, I just have to tell everybody that she is the author of two books that are really quite timely. One is on the life of Mary Bethune-McLeod. Actually, did I get that? Did I invert her name? Mary McLeod Bethune, who for Floridians in particular is a real beacon, and that I was able to interview Dr. Rooks on Wide Awake America, and quite recently, very, very recently, she is the author of Integrated, and it is an examination of the realities behind desegregation. So the one book is A Passionate Mind in Relentless Pursuit, the vision of Mary McLeod Bethune, and Integrated. And the timeliness of talking to you really stems from the fact that what we are seeing right now is an all-out assault on civil rights. President Trump, his executive order has targeted the National Museum of African American History and Culture, calling aiming to revise exhibits that he says are divisive, of course, truthful. The NAACP has filed a lawsuit against the Department of Education over directives to eliminate DEI programs. And a long-standing lawsuit addressing school segregation in New Jersey is returning into court after failed mediation. And so I wanted to talk to you about two things. One of them is your reaction to seeing and hearing and witnessing this all-out assault on American history as somebody who has spent a lot of time rigorously and academically chronicling that history.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's such an honor to be here for your first show. Yay. I'm going to try not to mess it up here. I'm going to try to be like engaging, so send you off well. You know, one thing about this moment, I'm sure most of your listeners know Woodrow Wilson, who famously came into office in the 1920s and immediately began to purge the government of Black people, of statues and commemorations that had to do with Black people. It was under his administration that, get this, the Congress literally started to debate having a Mammy statue. Y'all all know what Mammy is, right? Like Mammy Gone with the Wind. So here at this point, they were like, let's get rid of the actual Black people who are working in the federal government. Let's purge them from any kind of federal service, and let's redo commemoration. We've spent far too much time celebrating the Union and the end of slavery, and let's bring back what was good about it. Now, so far, President Trump has not proposed anything like a Mammy statue. I'm almost sorry to mention it, lest I give I give rise to some new ideas. But the idea of getting rid of Black people from different spaces, firing 4-star generals and replacing them with 2-star, no star, with less qualified people. At the same time that you're making demands about what kind of history, where history can be, what kind of history, calling the truth of history, I think, Nadine, you said true history, but calling it divisive, it is reminiscent. It's more like my research is so engaged in these periods of time. And sometimes I literally feel like we're going back there, like literally. So much is mirroring these earlier periods. It's quite the stunner.
Yeah, I just, I was going to say, in watching what's been unfolding, the idea that, they would promote someone to helm the Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who has such a checkered past. That's the most generous thing I could say about him. The allegations that he's denied of, roofing a woman, his blowing the cash of one of the Koch group's Concerned Veterans for America, his time on Fox, basically auditioning for Trump. And then, with someone like that who's so unqualified, so manifestly unqualified to lead the Defense Department, and then they immediately are targeting Black generals and women in leadership positions, and then they run amok
in the books.
In the books, yeah, taking
the Naval Academy. They're like, now let's get rid of the books. Yeah.
Right, Maya Angelou. They got rid of Maya Angelou, but they kept not only Mein Kampf, but also another book about white supremacy.
Right.
They're not subtle.
It's this idea that diversity, it's interesting. I think, Nadine, you said this also. One of the things it's hard to it's a mind something that starts to happen is the way they're using diversity. So on the one hand, in the Harvard case, which I'll mention, there's all this stuff about ideological diversity. Like they want Harvard to pick students to attend, to admit them, to start some new category of ideological diversity without telling us what that means. What does that mean? Like, do you literally mean for every civil rights moment, we need someone who's like, yay Nazis, yay Klan? Is that what you mean? Do you mean that people who you think of as liberal, we need to have something called conservative, as if they are not running amok on these campuses already, so-called conservatives? Most of his cabinet, the people who went to Ivy League schools and consider themselves conservative, attended one of these schools. So the way that we're watching these terms like diversity, it is, and even conservative, liberal, to watch them dismantle civil rights protections, education for states. We're now telling states that if you want federal money, you have to get rid of DEI without even defining what that means. DEI means what? Ramps for people who are differently able to get into the school. It means special education. It just means so many different things. It's impossible to comply. I think that's the thing of it. Even if you wanted to comply, even if you wanted to get that money, you have to go through some things to even figure out what's being asked of you, I believe.
Well, they've done a good job of making it clear that diversity, equity, inclusion are necessary because they have hired the most unqualified people by eliminating all diversity from government. Yep. And it really, I wonder if you look back on history and there's some other instruction, like I'm thinking about Lee Atwater saying you can't use the N-word anymore, but you can talk about busing, you can talk about welfare. Right. DEI and critical race theory are the modern equivalents of that. But we seem to be moving very swiftly toward the place where you don't even have to use codes or dog whistles anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is not codes. We're not having a Southern strategy. We're not having any of that. This is straight, it's Woodrow Wilson, purge, just purge. We know who we mean. Let's just get rid of them, books about them, calling it ideology, hateful ideology, changing the very definition of things like rights. When you say civil rights, we were talking about this. I was talking about this with my students in class today. What has to happen for people's minds and psyches to sort of catch up with these definitions of civil rights that we're now having to figure out? So it now means if you have any kind of programs that get rid of barriers, and you can't do that. And if you in any way advantage anyone but white people, it may be white men, because apparently there are two genders now. And so you have to be one or the other. That's it. You're considered racist or against the law or against civil rights. And they were really saying, even again, like I was saying before, even if they want, if they don't want heat, they don't want drama, they want to try to figure out, how do I keep my head down as an 18-year-old and just move through this and get employment at the end? They're not even being given enough guidance about what and who we mean beyond feels. This just feels like they mean these people, other than Black people. Like we know they mean Black people that they want to get rid of. But other than that, Yeah, it's a moment that I really do feel for somebody who spends a lot of time with young people who are figuring out who they are in the world, and measuring themselves against history and the present and what they've been taught. Things have scrambled for them in some ways, that they're trying to figure out what you can hold on to and what you can even say, the chill on freedom of expression, like to actually honestly even say that, some of this is disturbing to me. I like Maya Angelou. I want to still read Maya Angelou. Well, will this bring the wrath of the vengeful president, down on an institution? You mentioned this before, and I do want to say I'm really happy with the moves that Harvard ended up making here in the last couple of days. It's a clear and resounding no to censorship, and no to government overreach, and no to authoritarianism. And I wasn't sure I was going to see that coming. And so I am happy for the resistance. I really am.